Good evening, everyone. We are ready to start. So today's agenda is quite, um, let's say, intense because, as some of you have seen, some of the links for week 4 are not available. But whatever so we are going to substitute this thing with the recording of today. What is happening is the reality in the cloud. When we work in the cloud, everything updates at the time they schedule it to be updated, not at the time we have requested, because this is a cloud for many users, not for us, for education. This is industry available to the company who contract and pay for the services, and we are one of the many users in the cloud. So there is no synchronization related with the user, but mostly with what the provider has planned. So one of the cloud we are going to use is undergoing update, and all the material are updating also. So this update started yesterday, hasn't finished it. Some of the video are not available at this point. They will be substituted with other, but in the meantime, since we do not want to wait for them, we are going to deliver whatever is not available in the today's session. So that's why this is going to be more than just walkthrough. We are going to provide everything which is not available in that videos. So today's agenda is an overview where we start with the class, and some important point I want to mention, and then we are going to do the walkthrough. So for the overview, I would like first to stop sharing the presentation and to share what is my Bloomix screen, and talk about what we are doing in class in the discussion. So since previous week, our topics started with natural language processing, cognitive computing, and specifically Watson. And one of the tasks we have starting previous week in discussion is to complete the lecture posted previous week, complete the reading, and explore at least two services Watson in Bloomix, and provide your input to the class, what you have learned, what you find. And so that is the way for us to learn more about a specific um, cognitive application like Watson, and what exploring them, what you are learning. I will appreciate, please, everyone in mute, so we can listen only one speaker at the time. So first thing I want to mention is regarding assignment. It doesn't matter individual assignment or discussion assignment. Please read the assigned reading before attempting doing anything. If you start attempting doing the assignment before reading the assigned reading, you just are not going to make sense of what you are doing and why you are doing it. This applies for individual assignment and for class assignment like discussion. What I see very frequent in this last discussion, the first discussion was excellent, but in this last is going very slow because everyone, I know why, because everyone was concentrated to complete the assignment with text mining in R because didn't start on time, and you have to schedule the time accordingly. So beside that, some people were in rush to post whatever just to post something. That defeats the purpose of the discussion. The discussion should be something meaningful, which after you read and you have some thought, you share with your own words. I see repeatedly something which is just Google search of what is and the definition of what is. And this is just what we are not supposed to do in the graduate school. That is not to fulfill the requirement for discussion. So again, read the assignment reading, and whatever you are going to express in class discussion, use your own words. And if you have citation, of course, put your references and citation, but not just a post which is let's say 40% is quotation. Use your own. That is the purpose of the discussion. The purpose of the discussion is to read, to learn together, not just to post something which you find and you spend 5 minutes and done. This is not gonna help in a long run. So uh, that is one of the important point I want to make. And regarding what is expected from the discussion, besides understanding what is cognitive computing, what are the challenges of natural language processing, how they are related with big data, and the specific cognitive computer we are exploring Watson because we have access to several services of Watson in Bluemix. So you have to explore some of them and provide your input in the discussion, what you did, what you obtained, what you think about this. And I see in one section everything are going okay, but in the other two sections, just like people are not paying too much attention. So I'm going very quickly to say what is expected. One of the favorite service is Tone Analyzer. I saw in 9040. That is the favorite one. It's my favorite also. So if you go to it, you will see that up to 2,500 API is free. This is if you are going to do API. But before that, what is expected for the discussion, before going to call any API, you have to go to the doc to the documentation because each of the services in the Bluemix has a documentation. Read what how this service is built because it's built on the knowledge of some expert. We already have learned what is Watson, and you understand that each of these services represents some area of knowledge and is based on this. So when you go to the documentation, you will learn what is behind this specific service, and then it will make sense to you with the data you explore what to expect of this service. So before doing this, just putting data in the service and looking what is there, it at least defeat the purpose. You must understand what is behind, and then what my first suggestion is after reading everything which is in the documentation, go to the demo, and you have different demo. It depends of the type of application. Here, the tone analyzer, you can do tweets, you can do online review, for instance, analyze and see what you are going to obtain. So what you are what I expect for you to do is at least explore this with some of your own text and provide what you understand this service is about and what happened with the data you provided, if it fulfill your expectation, if not, why you think is this. Just critically uh, present your experience so everyone will learn and we better will be understanding about this very complex computer, which is Watson. And let me just say a few words, which I don't feel everyone got the idea about this, what is Watson, because there are actually too many reading in week 3. You can continue reading. I totally understand you haven't read all of them, but try to make to understand the big picture and then the detail. And the big picture is to understand that Watson is one example of cognitive computer, and it was built for certain purpose 7 years ago to what was um, in the competition, and then based on this proof of concept to build this, let's say, uh, mm, very powerful computer, but for certain purpose, then IBM starts doing in the cloud small application which are affordable, which many user can pay if they have to pay. Not we as education, we have free access, but and then take advantage for business purposes. And one of the things I want to get to this discussion is where you see actually the application. And from your personal point of view, in your job, actual job, in the future job you are want to have, wherever you see the application. It could be in different area. For instance, you see, I already saw some interesting discussion in the section 9040 from customer point of view, what you want to see from Watson. And there are so many open area in which it can be applied. So that is our task in the classroom to get started understanding where we can apply. Because at the end of the day, as a data analyst, what we want to know is where to apply um, this technology. So before moving to other point, I will answer any question related with what is Watson and the Watson services.
I have a question.
Yes, who is speaking?
My name is Aniru Kama.
Yes.
When you look at this and it gives you credentials, will we be using those credentials in class? And if so, how?
If you are going to use the APA, yes. But this is next step. Let me tell you, whatever you start to do, you first have to learn the and explore the demo. Then to do the APA, you will need, let's say, more programming skills for many of the APA, because they imply training the application for something else you want to do. So let me tell you that for the length of the class, this goes beyond the time frame we are going. But to get you started, you can get started on this and do on your own above and beyond what is the assignment. For the assignment with Watson cognitive application, the thing we are going to do are only in discussion. So what I want you to do is to learn about this application as much as possible yourself and in discussion. And if you have time to go to the API, this is not required for the class. It's for you. We are giving you the opportunity to do it. So for this, you will need but it's not required for the assignment. What I do expect from you is when you write the report for assignment 2, since it's sentiment analysis, if you can compare what you did with the other technology we are going to use. We are going to use different technology for sentiment analysis in assignment 2, not Watson individually. Watson is only for the class discussion. So for the individual assignment, we are going to use DB2 Warehouse in the cloud, which is available also for us in Bluemix and has integrated analytics in it. This is the last fashion in analytics. Let me tell you, the last week was the biggest conference strata in New York. And the tendency, one of the biggest, let's say, flow and fashion in these conferences, let's say that the top hot topic was analytic to the data. And this is what we are going to do in this assignment number 2, because IBM already provide this new technology, and we will be able to do uh, integrated analytic to the tool we are going to work. So you will capture this in the walkthrough a little later today. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay. I'm just skimming here to the question. I will skim later if needed when Elena start talking. And now I'm going to proceed to what is sharing the other part of the meeting today, which is related with in-memory analytic. I'm going to give very quick, let's say, introduction to this, and why we are going to do this. So here are two things. The application we are going to work in the next 3 weeks, starting from this week 4, is sentiment analysis. This is the application. The technology we are going to use for this is in-memory computing. And we are going to use analytical tools which are integrated together in a platform which is named Data Science Experience. So this is so exciting. This is the hottest and the most advanced thing in analytics today. Of course, we are going to do something simple and manageable in 3 weeks, but you will get some understanding, and your eyes should open what is possible to do in this type of analytical platform where you have everything. You have the database, you have your data, and you have the analytical tool integrated with them. So, uh, just very quickly, why we actually need in-memory computing? There are certain type of application where businesses really, to get competitive advantage, is very important to have analytic fast and not expensive. Let's put it this way, very simple. Let's think of things like Internet of Things. Let's say your business is to monitor all meters, all parking meters in Washington, D.C., and you are collecting data for millions of meters in the street, and you want this data collected fast and processed fast, because you know that they pertain to different provider, and you need, as a manager of city like Washington, D.C., to see where the flow of traffic is going, and to have the pattern of parking. So fast response is very important in this type of application. Or for instance, loyalty card, you want as a provider to get access to this loyalty card and put and include the point in not less than, let's say, what should be the time? 1 minute, 2 minutes? That is the reasonable time which you as a business think. So memory computing comes in place when the businesses need fast decision making at some, let's say, reasonable cost. Why reasonable cost? Because if you think that you are going to put all this big data in RAM, you understand that this is totally not manageable, and the solution should be different. You cannot put big data in RAM. Even RAM is today getting, let's say, cheaper, but cheaper doesn't mean that you can accommodate millions of data of big data. So in order to, here in this slide, I have some another application beside the two I mentioned. Very important, keep on in mind the wireless provider. If they want to implement some aggressive marketing initiative, they do need very fast not only collecting the data, but analyzing and getting the insight in a very short period of time and with some technique which is, let's say, affordable. Affordable, that means is at some price which makes sense for the business you are going to do. We are not talking necessarily cheap. We are talking about reasonable for the business you are going to do. So they are today modern technology like the one we are going to use, which is BLU, which is a patent of IBM, and there are several more patents of other company which actually provide new technology to process data at the speed of the CPU, because you understand that when you process data, just accessing RAM is a bottleneck in normal computer. It doesn't matter normal computer. It doesn't matter how to just accessing the data is overhead. So this new generation in memory processing is new generation technology. That doesn't mean that the data is physically in memory. It's actually faster than in memory processing, in RAM processing, is at the speed of the CPU, and is as cheap as what I have in the last bullet. Regularly, you can get, let's say, processing unit which is gonna cost you $5,000 for gigabyte to process. With this new technology, you can do it in less than a penny. So that is the exciting thing in this new in memory. So you understand, the thing is not that is physically in RAM, but the processing with this patented technology occur at the speed of the CPU, and very effective, and uh, price is very reasonable. Well, you saw the data I provided. So this technology, the one we are going to get access to, is the IBM Blue Technology. Blue doesn't stand for anything, it's just from blue. So don't look what BLU means. Means nothing. They put this name. And is implemented in the data, let's say, in this modern database, which is DB2. Is not the traditional DB2 of IBM Warehouse on cloud, which uses exactly this um, in memory technology. I have selected only the most important key point, because we are not computer engineer here. We are data analysts and data scientists, and we are interested mostly about how we are going to do predictive modeling having the data in this fashion. But just some important thing which is very good to know as a data analyst and data scientist. If some of you are coming for computer science preparation, you remember the classical simple instruction multiple data schema. So this is this one, but is more advanced. It's very similar to this classical computer science schema of processing. It's named parallel vector processing, and rely that the data is columnar base organized. You don't access the data by row, but by column, and this is very important for big data. Why? Because for big data you can have millions of rows, and you need to access only 3 columns. So accessing, for instance, column 1, 5, and 7, you are done, and you access it all million of rows simultaneously. So this is the columnar technology, which is what usually you will see about data management is not SQL organization. today NoSQL and SQL are merging, and this is one of the nice merging of both paradigm, which is the columnar technology with the BLU performance, which is parallel vector processing. And one of the very important characteristic is that, for instance, data is prefetched. Since data can go in stream and is prefetched whatever is needed, and if some chunk of data is not needed, is skipped. And why this is possible? Because you have integrated um, the analytical tool together with what is um, the database. And this is the most important. I would like you to know about the technology itself. They are article about the technology, which they are going beyond our analytic interest in this class. But if you are interested, you can consult them. So very important is that this cluster, differently from what is Hadoop, Hadoop is also, distributed uh, computing system from many commodity computing. Here, the difference is that the connection between the different server, and they are not commodity computer, moreover, um, the connection between exchange of data is very fast. The networking between the servers is very fast, which is part of the BLU technology. And um, in order to achieve the speed, what is needed is this massive parallel processing, which is actually the patented processing mechanism in order to get the speed comparable to the speed of a CPU, of course, with all these additional, let's say, feature, which I mentioned some of them in the previous file. One important thing I want to mention here, and this is totally different from Hadoop. We are going to Hadoop in a few weeks. What is different here is the scalability. In Hadoop, we add more server, it doesn't scale linearly. Here, the scaling is linear. That means if you have one server and it takes for processing 1 hour, you add 4 more server, the processing is gonna be 15 minutes. So this is so nice. And this is just to tell you, so you get the feeling what type of technology we are using. So this is what I have regarding the technology, and I'm ready to give the presentation to the walkthrough. But before proceeding to this, if there are any questions for what I have presented up to here. I see. Okay, there are people who cannot connect. I will work with them after this. I don't see questions. So, Elena, I'm going to actually stop sharing. You have the same
Yes,
presentation
yes.
and give it to
Mhm.
you.
And
Okay.
actually, there is something in the R code that I have, and it's not in the walkthrough. So, there is always reward for people who attend the presentation or watch the recording. So, keep that
Well,
in
if
mind.
they, I already have my observation, not watching the recording
Yeah.
and not doing many stuff. Okay.
So, how do
Uh,
I...
well,
My
let
screen, right? But,
yeah, but you cannot share anything because you are at the end. You got it now. Okay.
let me see.
Yeah.
Okay. Am I the
So guys,
presenter?
very important. You read everything and you ask question if there is something you
Oops.
don't understand, and do not wait until the last moment. we have in between the three sections, there are two students who have not asked question and it's gonna be problematic. So let's see.
Hmm? So for this one, for this assignment, how about we do the contest? Which session will submit the work faster, and which session will have the average, the highest average grade? Can we do that? Well, I'm joking, but you know. Anyhow, so what you guys gonna do? This is important. You're gonna go to the catalog, and the reason it's important is because there are two or three similar services. And I want to make sure that everybody adds the correct service, because if you don't, you're not gonna get a free service, right? So here it is. You're gonna have to click on data analytics, and here, if you scroll, keep in mind there are three services, right? There is a DB2 hosted. It's not what you want. This service is not what you want. You want this one. DB2 warehouse on a cloud. So just write it down, or I think I put it on the slides for you too. Okay, so you want this one. And when you click on it, right, when you click on it, you'll see I want you not to change this. I want you to keep it as is. Well, I realize you see it says $50 per month. No, it only applies if you go over one gigabyte of service. So up to 1 gigabyte, you're fine, right? I'm not going to add the service again because I already have it added. So this is one thing on my list of do's and don'ts that I put together. You do not want to add two copies of the service, because then it's very easy to get yourself lost, right? Because what you do on one account you cannot access from the other account, and if you add the second copy of the service, it's basically you're not working on the same account, and then there's gonna be problem. Now, something else I want to point out: if you have something running, don't stop it, because when you stop something, behind the scene you're starting another process, right? This is a big picture. Remember it. You're not going to use the back button. You're not going to be exiting application just by closing the tab like this, right? Now, what else I forgot to say? You don't want to install the packages unless you're going to use them, right? And you're not going to update the R version. This is big no. I realize that the version that you use is not the latest, but do not make any updates. This is sad one. Every time I say it every time, but somebody always does not listen. You don't want to type your code into Microsoft Word. All SQL code has to be typed in a text pad, right? Or in a Notepad or Notepad++, but not Microsoft Word, because it introduces very weird characters, and it's very hard, if not impossible, to fix, right? And I don't want you to wait until the last minute to do the work, because you never know what will happen. And here are some do's. This is important. You're going to, in addition to saving the work in the cloud, right, and I'll show you how to save the data science experience files, you have to save it on your local PC. Always save a copy on your PC, right, just in case. And again, I say here, and I will repeat it multiple times, you have to use either Notepad or TextPad to type your code. Now, at the end of the walkthrough, you have ungraded exercises, right? This is ungraded, but hint, hint. It tells you where you can go beyond, right? It tells you, for example, association rules, right? I'm running it without input parameters. What you can do on your own as a homework, you can run the help command and see how to use the parameter. And if this is something you're doing in your assignment, you want to explain what support is, what confidence is, right? So, you want to post your questions, right? And you want to follow instructions to the letter. Everything is important. Here, I want to point out because there is a misconception here. When you say go beyond, I say, oh, maybe I'm gonna just go jump in and do geospatial analysis. How about that? Because I have location column. How about if I just go in and I create a fancy plot, which gonna show me the countries and it's gonna show me number of posts per sentiment per country. And if this is something I start with, well, it's highly possible that I reach the deadline and I did not get anything done. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that you have to do the minimum first and then add to it, right? So, in other words, if you do the minimum, you have a B, right? But you have to start from a B to work for an A, because otherwise you're going to end up spending time on something small and never get anywhere. So, just be careful. And this is important. You want to plan ahead, right? So, here, this slide, it just shows you which service you need to add. And tonight I'm going to show you some troubleshooting as well, because I noticed that some of you need help with debugging, right? Now, I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Well, this is very important. On your Bluemix dashboard, there is a limit on how many services you can have. The limit is 10 for you. So this is an error message that you will receive. If you see this error message, it means that you already have 10 services. So what you'll have to do is you'll have to go back to your dashboard and you have to delete what you're not using. Unfortunately, we have to prioritize because the limit is 10 for the student account. Students very often ask me, and I'll show you where to find this information. How do I know when I'm near the space limit? I'll show you. So first of all, let's go ahead. Let's just assume that I hit create, right? But instead, I'm going to my dashboard and I want to launch the service, right? So my service is here, right? And speaking of delete, I'm not going to do it, but if I was going to delete, this is this, I would have clicked on options and I would have selected delete. This is what I would have done if I was going to delete. But don't do that. I need to warn you that if you delete DB2 warehouse on the cloud, if you delete it, all your work will be gone. So don't do this. There is no recycle bin. Now let me click on this to launch the service. And I already had some excellent questions. There is a place in the tutorial where I tell you to click open to launch the service, right? But then at the same time, on the next page, I start talking about credential. It's going to be on this page. It's taking some time to load, but in the left panel, you're going to see manage, and then you're going to see the tab called credentials. Oh, it could be because of my zoom. Let me zoom back down. Okay, but on this side, I was supposed to see the credentials. It's taking its time, but anyhow, here there should be credentials tab. And that's where you're gonna, the credentials is what you need to get into the data science experience. Rather, to connect from data science experience, our environment to the DB2 warehouse database. So now, this is how you launch the service. You're gonna click, and it's gonna come up. Well, here you have to be patient, and you're gonna see some messages that sometimes it's funny. Alright, so now this is how do you know how much you have space left. See this? So this 100% stands for 1 gigabyte. And here, this is my current usage. And alternatively, I can see it here. I can see this 0%. This is how much storage I use right now. Here, this is your log. And in the earlier version, it was not possible to see the log for the earlier data loads. Well, when the load was finished, you were given the statistics page. Oops. But once you exit that page, there was no way to return to the statistics page, right? There was no way. Now there is. Unless you deleted, all this log is stored here, right? And if you see the check mark, it means that the log went fine, no problem. And if you see an exclamation point here, it means that the log returned some warnings. And in a walkthrough, you don't have an example of warnings because what I did was I cleaned up the airline data. All the data that you see in the classroom is cleaned up. So please do yourself a favor, use the data set that I provided for you, right? Because I did some preparation, I cleaned it up for you. But if you choose not to do that, if you choose to use a different data set, of course you need our approval. But let me show you. So here I see an exclamation point and try to load the data, right? Just think about it. I try to load something. I click on it. Whenever you finish loading the new data, you want to compare. This is the number of rows that in Excel file that I attempted to load. This is the number of rows that got loaded successfully. I need to compare. Are these two numbers the same? Here, it's going to tell me how many rows are rejected. So if the row is rejected, it means for some reason it didn't get loaded. It got skipped by the load. Well, sometimes it's not a problem, unless it caused another issues, and I'll show you what the issues could be. All right, so here it is. I did something yesterday. I had another data file, and I called it McDonald's Tweets. Well, I just tried to load something. And here, I said no errors, but there are warnings. If I click on warnings, it's very difficult to say what actually happened. There is something happens that the character data in column 10 was truncated. So basically what actually happened is in column 9, I have some data that contains the characters that got misinterpreted as move on to the next cell. Well, this is really weird, but I had some bad data in here. So because if I basically go here, view data, this is an example of the bad load that I'm showing you now. I'm going to click on the load data, and the problem is it added extra columns. Well, you would have to scroll all the way. See this? This is how I know that my load did not succeed. What you have to do is you have to look at your spreadsheet, you have to look at the CSV file that you're updating, and you want to compare the number of columns. And in my case, here it added extra columns for some reason. See, this is very hard to debug. But what I figured out is that I have a field here with the text data, and my field has some kind of characters that got misinterpreted as either tab or a new line, and it ended up adding extra fields, right? But to actually troubleshoot this, I would have to go to the SQL and I would have to run a query, and I would have to find the row where this field is not blank. So apparently there is one or more rows here where this field is not blank. So I would have to go in and I would have to find that row just by running the queries. See this, run SQL? I would have to find I would have to run a query like this. Select everything from this table where column 35 is not null. Null stands for blank in the database, right? So this is how I know that my load did not go well as expected, because I have some extra columns that never appeared in my tables that I was going in my spreadsheet that I was going to load, right? So some of you might be wondering what Elena is talking about, what she means by load. Well, okay, here are the different data sources that I can have, but for the purpose of this assignment, you're going to be loading everything from your computer. So I can click here, and then I'm going to, I can select the data set that I want to run, right? And for example, I can do, I think it was in my earlier, it was in my other folder, in my, here it is. So basically, I have this file called airline sentiment, right? That I want to load, but since I already loaded the data, right? Suppose that, I guess assume I already loaded the data and something went wrong. And I want to fix it. I loaded it and I got an error message, right? I made some changes to my data and I want to reload it. I have several options here. What I could do is, see this, I uploaded, I selected the file. Now I'm gonna hit next. I have to select my schema, which is, this is my username. You're going to have a different username. In a walkthrough, you're instructed to select new table. This is what you're instructed to do, and to enter new table name, right? Instead, right now, I'm going to show you something different. We are not going to create a new table. Let's assume that I want to redo my work here, right? So I loaded it before, but the load did not go as expected. So I'm selecting existing table. I have two options. I can append or I can override. In my case, I want to do the override. It's because something did not go as expected again. I went and I cleaned up my data, and now I want to see if it works. Now here, this is a preview, this is a column name, this is a data type, and nullable means if the column is allowed to have empty values. Null in database it means that it's unknown, right? It's similar to NA and R, but in a database terminology, it's null. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit next, right? Here, what I see is that I see my field names, and if I wanted to, I could go ahead and rename. Separator means that that's a delimiter in my in my file, right? That's a column delimiter. It's a comma. Here, if this is checked, it means that my first row in a data file contains the column headings. I want it to be read from the first row, right? And this is date and time format. I just keep it as default. Alright, so now here it is. Pay attention. What columns do I have here, right? And you want to pay attention. How many fields do you have in your spreadsheet? What do you have there? You want to compare. You want to make sure that nothing extra got added that you did not expect. Now I'm going to hit next. Okay, here I see my options. This is a summary. And this is just basically the delimiter and the date timestamp format. And if you want the header to be if you want the header to be in the first, read from the first row, that's right. Here, well, I forgot to show you, tell you, well, it might not be in the walkthrough. This is what it means. Usually, when you get an error might terminate the load. Warning usually does not, but if the number of warning is going to reach 1,000, the load will stop, and you can change this number here. You can change it. Now I'm just gonna go in and say begin the load, and watch what is gonna happen. This is giving me the steps, right? It's uploading, then it's gonna be creating a table. It will remove the header, it will try to read the data types, it will create table, and then it will put data in the table, and then it will complete. So there are several stages in here. And you have a status here. It's showing you that it's loading. When it's done, if there are any problems, you're going to see it here. You're going to see it up here. Target is the name of the table where the data is going to be loaded. Here is the name of the file at your PC. Right now, I think it's gonna be updating. It's still updating. It's gonna show you how many rows have been read from the file. It's gonna show you the number of rows loaded, number of rows rejected, and number of warnings. Right now there are none. But when we used this file in the summer, there were some warnings. But what we did was, instead of cleaning up the file, we eliminated the rows programmatically. That's what we did. But this time I just cleaned it up for you. You don't have to worry about it if you use the file in the classroom, right? Now from here, you have to take a screenshot of this, right? But if you forget to take a screenshot, remember that at the landing page, right now I have a record at the landing page for this load, right? So you can always return to it. This is an enhancement. Before it was not available. So I can click here and it's going to return here to my load statistics. See that there are no errors, so everything went as expected. But if there were some, I can click here to see warnings, and this here I can download my log. It's going to open this in the text file. But I'm going to tell you this, I'm going to be honest with you. If there are problems, it tries to show you the row number, but it's not the actual row number in the file. So the good way, the most efficient way to get the actual wrong number is to run queries, but this is a troubleshooting. Now from here I can see, I can click on view table. View table is going to show me the table structure. This is also known as the table metadata. So it's going to show me the columns, and it's going to show me the column data types, right? So you want to make sure that this is decimal. If not, if you see different data type in here, it means that you have some invalid data. It's highly possible that you have some character data loaded in it. And it was happening when I had some new line characters inside other values. So here, this is a negative reason. This is the reason if somebody put negative votes, right? They specify the reason they put a negative sentiment. But the problem is, if the sentiment is positive, there are no comments. And in our study, in R, that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to figure out why somebody really liked the airline. What was a common positive comment? So I'm going to do the positive, and you have an ungraded exercise. What you want to do is, on your own, you want to try to do the neutral, because there are three sentiments here: positive, negative, neutral, right? So here we have a negative reason, but we don't have a positive reason. But we're going to analyze our text right here. This is a field. We're going to extract some words, and we can try to do the word clouds. We can do the graphs. Oh yes, you remember I showed you something as a bonus in the last meeting. Now it's going to be compulsory. Okay? So now, here, this is how you run SQL. Here you're just going to type your SQL, or you're going to paste your SQL from the editor. And let me go ahead and paste, because I have a bunch of SQL from last semester. I have a bunch of interesting select statements. So this piece here is from the walkthrough, right? The first query, I'm just selecting different fields from the sentiment table, and I'm just saying I'm going to limit it to a number of retweets to 30, right? This is just simple query with where close. This query is just going to get you the table information programmatically and the column information programmatically, right? So now let's go back to the slide for a second. I want to make sure I covered it. We covered this slide. Okay, so this one, I'm just showing you the indicators. How do I know when my load did not go as expected, right? You're going to see the warnings. And this is unexpected columns that got added. Now here, this is basically, I'm showing, oh yes, this is another way to delete. I'm glad I looked at it. This is another way to undo the load. So if I'm unhappy with the load, right, this is what I can do. I can go here to Explorer. I can find my table. See this, and I can just click Delete Table. You would usually do it when you try to reload the data, and your current version of the data has a new field that did not exist before. But keep in mind that whenever you delete the table, if you had any views, you can create a database view, right? If you had any views defined on the table, they're going to be invalid. You would have to recreate the view, right? So that's something to keep in mind. This is what's going to happen. And if you delete the table, it's going to be gone. And all data in that table will be gone as well. There is no recycle bin. On the other hand, if you do what I did just by replacing all data, if you have a view created on that table, it's still going to exist. It still will be there, right? So now I'm going to go to run SQL, and since some of you asked not to have the same stuff that we had in a walkthrough, right? I found some copies of queries that are not in a walkthrough, and like for example, here it is. Let me just go ahead and copy this from here, right? So this is what you can do. It's an example of another example of a query, and what it will do is select star. Star is a wildcard. It means that I want to see every single field from the table. This is a table name. Here is my condition. In another word, I want to select where airline is sentiment is either positive, negative, or neither of these, right? It's neither positive nor negative nor neutral. Well, the reason I wrote that query before is because I wanted to check if I have unexpected data. Because just by reading the data definition, I know that all my sentiment has to be either positive or negative or neutral. So I just want to make sure. But in reality, I want to do this, right? I want to count the number of records that don't obey this rule, right? I want to do the count because I don't know how many I have. I don't want to do just select. So I hit run selected. Ooh, see this? I got an error. The reason I got this error because I did not select any statements to run. So here I have two options. I can run everything or I can just run what I highlighted. And when I run my table, here it's gonna put the log, right? Every time when I run the table minus in, it's creating a job. So it's telling me now that I ran one query, it did not fail, but it returned 0 because I don't have any rows that match this condition. And I click on detail, it's telling me what I ran, and it's telling me how many rows got returned. In this case, nothing, because my query did not pull anything to match the condition, right? So I have really advanced in here. Oh, this is a good one to show you. This is a good one. Now, I want you guys to remember the clauses in a SQL statement. So I believe in one of the slides here I summarized it for you. So now before we get to that slide, here I'm just showing you that if you close the page where you had your load information, you can get back to it. You have to go back to the landing page, and at the bottom you'll see the log. And if you see an exclamation mark, it means something went wrong during the load. And you also see the summary, the number of rows loaded and the number of rows rejected, right? And here it is. So this is a refresher. The SQL statement contains several clauses. Select, you're going to list, you put comma delimited list of fields that you want to select. From clause, it's going to put the table that you're selecting it from. Where clause is going to filter the rows, right? This is very important. The where clause applies to the certain rows. For instance, I want to see how many people made a positive post, but I want to limit my people to live in a certain city, perhaps, right? So in this case, I'm going to use the where clause because I'm limiting people, right? On the other hand, if I want to list the number of the number of positive posts per city, right? But I want to exclude the cities that have less than 100 positive posts. So here I'm going to use a having because I'm not filtering individual records, I'm filtering the cities that meet the total criteria, right? I'm filtering whatever the grouping returns, and I'll show you what I mean. So having an order by is sorting, is doing the sorting, the output. Now, important, every select statement must have at least select and from. I must specify what I'm selecting and where I'm selecting the data from. And the spelling of the table name must match to the actual table name, right? So if there is a table called Yelena, if I omit the first two letters, it's not going to know what I'm talking about, right? Because the table does not exist. So you always want to check the spelling, right? So now let's go back to here. So this is my query. So right now what I want to do is here, I want to list the time zone. I want to count the number of tweets per time zone, right? And I put count 1. I had a question last semester. What 1 means? It's just a dummy. I just want to count how many tweets I have per time zone, right? But here, when you put 1, you really need to be careful, and I'll tell you why. because there is a way how count treats the blanks, but let's not worry about it for right now. So I want to select the time zone, and I want to display the number of tweets per time zone. But here, let me delete the v, because v underscore it was a view. I didn't create a view. So now let's go ahead and run this, and let's see if it happens. I'm gonna hit run all. Oops. Select the statements. Okay, let's see this. Run all. Sorry. Here we go. Oh, did it run? There we go. So now it's running. Here we go. Now, so what it did now is this. It gave me the number of, it gave me see this is a user time zone, and this is the number of tweets, right? What I did here, with this having clause, I am excluding the time zones that have more than 10 tweets. I'm not excluding the individual records from the database. What I'm rather doing is, first, it's gonna do this, right? First, it's gonna run this, right? It's gonna run this first. And this is what I have. And then, it's gonna go back and it's gonna cross out this that does not meet this having condition, right? So that's what having does. Having will eliminate the groups. On the other hand, if I do this right now, if I put this where I believe it's sentiment equals positive, right? I believe it's something like that. Let's hope I spelled correctly. So what this is going to do is, this will be executed before grouping. My counts will exclude the positive sentiment, right? This is what's going to happen, because this is going to apply to individual rows. And I wanted to go over that with you. It's not in the walkthrough, but this is what people miss. See, this has failed. Why did it fail? See, when it fails, you're going to see this error message. Sentiment is not in a valid context, right? So this is troubleshooting. It failed. What could go wrong? More likely, I misspelled the column name. I'll tell you that. I misspelled the column name in this case. But if something like this goes wrong, what you could do is you could check. Guys, may I ask you to put yourself on mute, because if I need to pause to remind you to put yourself on mute, then we're not gonna go far. All right. So now let me run it again. There we go. So now it worked. Let me go to results. No results returned. Okay, why no results returned? It's because I may have misspelled something. It's because I misspelled. It's the correct spelling. The string comparison is case sensitive, right? So it has to be lowercase positive. There we go. Let's run it. Now I got the results. So what I basically did right now, I troubleshooted. I got an error message. Then I went in and I looked up my column name, right? And I'll show you how to do this. I can look at the Explorer to see the table structure, or I could check it programmatically, right? And in your walkthrough, I have the query. This query is going to list me the columns in the table name. This is how you do it programmatically, right? It's going to list you the table name and the column names. So now I got my column names, right? I got it right. And then the problem is I had it misspelled, because it's lowercase. So now what it's doing is that first it's eliminating the positive tweets, and then it's doing the counts. It's counting the number of tweets per time zone, and then it's eliminating these counts. That's where the Hamming clause comes in. And after that, it's going to sort in by the time zone. It's going to sort by the time zone, right? So I hope you guys had a nice review. And of course, I'm going to show the hardest and the one that's not in a walkthrough. Now, suppose, see, that's what you're going to do. You're going to copy this code on your local PC in a notepad, and you're going to save it. Or ultimately, let's see this. Oh, when you click on Save Script here, I'm wondering what that will do. More likely, Oh, that's nice. When I click on Save Script here, this is what it do. It will put a copy of the script. It creates a local copy of the script. That's nice. Isn't it that nice? I just discovered something I was not aware of. Okay, now let's next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go to Analyze, and this is how we get to the R here. See this? We're gonna launch another environment, DSX. It stands for Data Science Experience, and we'll revisit this environment later in the course again. But when you click Launch DSX again, oops, you're gonna be redirected to this page, right? What you will do now, you have to click Sign In. More likely, you're just gonna go into the Data Science Experience. You're gonna load it, right? And then what you'll do is you're gonna go from Tools. You're gonna select RStudio, right? But I already had it open, so I have to exit. Now, very important, when you exit RStudio, you want to do the quit session, right? You don't want to close the browser tab. You want to quit and you want to save it, right? So now I'm ready. I'm gonna quit. So here it is. I just went in here, right? This is my screen, home page, right, or landing page. This is what I'm gonna do. See this tools? I'm gonna select RStudio, and I will go over something that you would have watched in the presentation. So now it's gonna take its time, a little bit of time to load, and what you'll see, it looks like an RStudio on your desktop. Do you remember RStudio on your desktop? Well, for some reason I still had it open. It's because I was doing something. So notice that this is RStudio on the desktop. We're gonna have a little bit more windows and a little bit more options, but for comparison, it's loading, right? Now, I want to point out something while it's loading. See that thing at the bottom? Ignore it. Sometimes it's going to show as a pop-up. They're going to try to advertise something to you, you just close it. If it pops up, you just close it. Okay? So do not contact them. I'm your point of contact before you contact them. So now, while it's loading, let's do that. We went through that slide. Here, this is basically what happened. I reproduced a similar error, right? I got this error. It's because I misspelled the column name. I misspelled the field name, and this is an error that I'm going to get. Can you show how I entered DSX? Sure, absolutely. I went through it too quick. This is my fault. I went through it too quick. So let me go back. This is where I was. Okay. Let's see. This is what I did. I was in that service here. I'm here, and I click on Launch DSX, and it went into Data Science Experience. But I'm a little bit not sure what's going on. It's because I was in the RStudio a minute ago. Let's close this. Here it is. Let me hit Sign In. Right? I click Sign In. Well, I should not have closed it, but let's see. Okay, and now I'm gonna go Tools, and I'm gonna go to RStudio. Fingers crossed. Work. Sometimes it happens, but what we have to do is we have to be patient. Oh, here we go. Oh wait, it's coming up now. It's showing me the disk usage. And it's probably referring to the Data Science Experience. And the reason it says 99% is because I have uploaded some data to well, you'll see it later in the course where you can upload, you can create projects and you can add notebooks, and you're working from the Spark. I have some data uploaded. That's why I have some disk usage here. But this is what I did to get there. See this? I clicked on Analysis, right? This page here, I clicked on Analyze, and I clicked here, Launch DSX. I'm not using this, I'm using Data Science Experience. Because this one, this is in a worst case scenario, if Data Science Experience is down, you have this. But the problem is it has an older version of R, and you will not be able to use text mining if you use this one. If you use this one, you will be able to use text mining, but you need to keep in mind that you might not be able to use the latest packages that you used in the last assignment because the version is older. But to be quite honest, in a real work environment, you need to be able to go back between versions. You're going to have customers who have different versions of an application, a different version of the same application. So that's something they need to work with. Okay, so here is my RStudio. Okay, when I start, I'm not going to see this, right? I'm good to close it because I have it saved. I'm not going to see this, right? What I will see here is nothing. I'm not going to see untitled, but let me just save it. Oops. I don't want to. Anyways, what I'm going to see, I'm not going to see this. I'm not going to see this, right? But I just typed something here as a draft, but I'm not going to see this window. Close, right? What I'll see is this window. I'm not going to see anything in here. Nothing. I'll see nothing. And packages, when you first log in, you're not going to have anything here. You won't. There will be no user libraries. All you have is a system library. This is what you will have. Now, since that video is down, I'm going to show you what they'll show you. They would show you this is a current R version installed in here. And to see what R version programmatically, you can just type R version command, right? Do you remember it from the last, right? So this is how you see it, right? This is the R version. In the beginning, your environment, here it shows the environment tab. It means what you have right now in memory. This is the history tab, and this is my command history, something that I was playing around with, and they also show you that you can do this. You can search. You can search the history. For instance, I remember that I did some plots, but I don't remember exact command, so I can just scroll through and I can click on it, and I can just put it to source and put it to console, right? If I want to rerun the command, I just can click this. Well, it's not going to work because I deleted everything from environmental window. What you could also do is this button here. I can save the history file. So here, this is the history of the commands that I ran, and I can just click save and to save the file. And today, yes, I'm showing you a few things that I did not show you during the RStudio walkthrough because there is more options. Okay, so this is my environment, and here I wanted to show you, but I'll show you once we have the variables loaded in memory. See this? You can toggle between list view and grid view, and I will show you once we have something in memory. Those are the packages, system library are the packages that we have here by default. Files, so here, those are the demo files. This is where the file that I created got saved. This is your history file. What you could do, you could also create your own folders. It's possible. I believe it's under the new. Well, we'll get there. Well, okay. Cancel. Well, there is an option to create. Here it is. You can create new folder, and when you save the file, you can put it in a folder. Here, it's showing you the date when the file was modified, the file size, and of course, the history will be modified today because it's the time when I ran the last command. I just did it, right? In the beginning, when you start, you're going to do file new file, R script, right? That will create an untitled file. And notice that since I already have untitled 1, it's going to start from untitled, it's going to be untitled 2. Well, it's because I already had my file, right? And to save this is how you do it. You're going to click on a floppy disk, but this is what I want you to keep in mind. It's going to save it on a server. It does not save it on your local PC. So I don't want you to say, where did I save it? Didn't I just save it, right? And you just give the file name and click save, right? You can also create folder while you're in this interface, right? You can just do new folder, and you can put something like assignment 2, right? I save it as an assignment 2, and I'm gonna click OK, and I'm gonna just say that airline script, right? There we go. So now I'm gonna hit save. Okay, see this? Look at this, look at this. Look at this, what is this? What is this? This is a folder that I just created, right? I click on it and this is my file, right? So let's go back to the home directory. This is a home directory. This is the folder where R is gonna look by default, right? Remember in a first webinar, first class, I showed you how to check the current directory, right? So whenever I try to save the file, whenever I try to open the file, that's the folder it's gonna look at. So now what I did here, this is a script here that you received, not quite, but you received you received part of this script, let's say this way, for the walkthrough. But what I did was I added more to it. But okay, when you first log in, notice that we have packages here. You're not gonna have this. This is the user library is what I installed. You have to install this IBM DBR because this is a package that I use to communicate with DB2 warehouse on the cloud. And I have to go back to that Bluemix first. Oops. For some reason, it's not showing me the credential part at the moment. If it does not, I'll show you another way how to get to it. You can go to, before you do that, save everything. Make sure you have it saved. Now you can go to data services, and then you go to the, I believe it's in the load data, and then there should be a service called, no, it's not load data, but in data service, it's services. And you should be able to see, this is my service on Bluemix, right? So when I click here, I should be able to do that. I should be able to actions and see this. I should do manage on Bluemix. And that should open my service on Bluemix. So that's one way to get to the service. And I should be able, see this? I see the service credentials now. See this? In the beginning, when you first add the service, you're not gonna have credentials, right? And it's in the walkthrough. You would have to click on new credentials. You would have to click on new credentials and create the credentials, right? But for some reason, for some unknown reason, I just could not access it. I'm just stuck. What am I gonna do? During the demonstration today, Elena showed me the workaround. See this? I can go to services here, right? And then I can find my services and see this? This is the DB warehouse. There is an option to manage on Bluemix. And that's what I just did. I click on service credentials and I hit on view credentials. See this? This is very important because what I need from here is this. This is my username. This is my host name. And if I scroll down all the way, this is a password. Ultimately, for your convenience, you can just do this. And I can just copy this, and I can put this in a text pad, right? I can just go this, I can do file, new, I can put it in a text pad temporarily, and then when I'm back at my data science experience, it's in here, right? So I'm gonna go do this tools, I'm gonna go back to RStudio right now. But before you do that, you have to save it first. And now it's gonna take some time to load because it's trying to get back to where I left off, right? But basically I have to show you how to get this information. You need to know more than one way to get this. Okay, so now here I am. Here, if you go back to this script, this is a host, right? And let me try to put this side by side. It might be easier to explain it to you. Look here. This is a database, DB. I'm creating it a variable. It's here, right? This is a host, right? And for some reason, you have to put the driver. It has to be the same. It has to be twice, right? Here is a port name, right? And the protocol is TCP/IP. See this? So here, this is my username, right? Database schema, and this is my password. I put everything from the credentials, and this is a code where I'm going to set up the connection. Everybody will have this same code, right? But before I do that, there is something else that I have to do. On the first time, you have to install this package. Only the first time. Now, this package is not available. I installed it, but it's not available because I never loaded it. I have to run either the library command or require command. Let's run this library command for right now. And what it's doing is, this is not an error message. What it's saying is that it's loaded the RDBC package. It's a package that some of the functions in this package call, right? So this is important because this piece was in a video that was removed. And in fact, for you, I figured out a little bit easier way to get data in our data frame, and I'll show you. So I loaded this. Now I have to create my variables. I'm just going to run through this, going on and on. And this is establishing the connection. But am I connected yet? No, because I have not opened this connection. So IDA connect, this one creates the connection variable, and this code, this line will initialize the connection. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to run a query against the database. So this is probably the simpler way to do it. I'm going to run this, and I'm going to store it I'm going to store this in our data frame. So what I want you guys to do is, this is your homework. Put a question mark here and put the name of this function and read this help page, right? So that's going to be your homework. You're going to read this help page, and this is one of the, this is a package that has this function here. What you can do is you can run the query and output to the screen, or you can store results in a data frame, right? Inside the query, if you have more than one table, you can even do joins. You don't have to worry about merging data frames in R, right? Everything is done in the database, and you only pull the data that you need. You don't have to pull the whole spreadsheets like you were doing last assignment, right? So here, this is my, let me run this command. I believe I have not done it already. So what this did is, it loaded everything from the airline Sentiment into the data frame called Sentiment. So now I have to check. To check that everything works as expected, I see the number of observations, the number of variables it's supposed to match, right? But what am I supposed to match? I can run this command to check the number of rows in the table in the database, right? So, see this? This number of rows in the tables, in the database table, has to match the number of observations, right? In the Sentiment data frame. This one is gonna give me the number of rows in the Sentiment data frame programmatically. This command is gonna show me the tables that I have right now in the database. It's gonna list the tables that I have in my schema in the database. But notice that it does not give me much information about the table. Yeah, but I added something to this code, and I'll get to it. I added something to it. But here, suppose that I don't know the actual spelling of my table, but I know that it contains the word air. So this is how I can do this. I can run this command, ada show table, and I can say match string air. So it's going to give me all tables that I have that has air, contains the word air. Now, this is how you get the details about the tables. Do you remember earlier I showed you how to do it programmatically on the DB2 warehouse on the cloud, right? I ran this query. You can run the same query here. Why not? So here, this command, it takes the connection object, and the second is my query. So this is a system table that stores information about the tables. And the creator is going to be me, right? You're going to put your schema name, your username. Very important, it's case sensitive, because all usernames stored in the database table, case sensitive, uppercase. Okay, hit run. What is it going to do? It's going to tell me the time when the table was created. It's going to tell me the number of columns in the database and who created it. Ultimately, I can find out the information about my columns in the table. It's the same view, well, rather in a walkthrough you have this query, but you don't have this statement to run this in R. So I added this part, right? It's a customer service. Some of you asked to do something beyond the walkthrough, right? So here it is. This is a column name. This is a table name. This is person who created the table. That's data type. Now it's going to tell me if the column may have a blank value or missing value. And this is the length, is the number of characters in a column. What I could also do is I can here I'm just showing you two ways to run commands. You can run a table command to get the number of tweets per sentiment, right? This is one way, or I can run this query, right? But it's gonna give me a little bit different output. It's showing me an output like this, right? In parallel, just to make sure that I am getting the results as expected, I could go back here and I can go to the run SQL, right? And I can also run the SQL. I believe I had the similar SQL because one of your schoolmates last semester, she asked me to add to it. She asked me to add the percentage by sentiment. So I have the same things that I just did in R. I can go ahead and I can do it here. So let me put this query is very advanced and it has a subquery. So subquery is a query inside the query, right? I'm going to run selected. And what this is going to do is it's going to give me the percentage. So it's going to show me the inner query counts the number of posts I have by sentiment. This is what this inner query does. It's going to it's going to pull the airline sentiment. It's going to show me the counts, right? It's going to do the counts. And after that, I'm just aggregating. This one here, it's going to count the total, right? Well, I could have done it differently. I didn't have to use a subquery here. I can just do well, but it's just one way to do it, right? It's just one way to do it. And here, I'm just taking a percentage. I can do the same thing in my query, or I can do the same thing in R. So you have more than one way to do your analysis here. You have this flexibility, but let me go back here. Now, I think I'm going to skip this stuff. You can do this stuff on your own, right? You can do this. But I wanted to show you, let me see if I can just get to the... So now, here, this is the text mining part. Very important. Well, let's scroll down. Before you do the text mining part, you have to install 3 packages. And the package that you need... Oh, wait a minute. Before we get there, I wanted to point out something else. In some of the commands are using the PLIR package. This package already installed. It's one of the system libraries. If you go to packages, it's one of the system libraries, but it's not loaded in memory. So when you get to that code, you have to load this in memory, right here, right? Let me scroll down further. This is package here, right? I'm using it in the examples walkthrough, but you have to load it in memory. You don't need to install it again, but you have to load it. So basically, it's your task to run all of this, right? And when you go down all the way to the text mining, I did not add anything here. I added something after the text mining. So what you're gonna do is you're going to install the TM package, you're gonna install workload, and you're gonna install the snowball. When you install the TM, behind the scene, what it will do is it will install this SLAM and NPL. So you have to have 6 packages total because you have IBM DVR. This one is for in order to connect to the database, and the rest of these are text mining packages, right? I'm not going to install anything else. Then next time I don't need to install them again. I can just do this. I can just load it in memory. When I load this package TM to memory, it's going to load NPL also. That's what this message means. Now it's saying that, well, sometimes when you load one package, if you remember that in the rules package has an inspect command, and right now it got blocked by the inspect command in a TM package. Well, basically you have 2 packages have a function with the same name, right? A rules has inspect and TM has an inspect. So if I was going to visualize the rules, association rules right now, it would not have worked. Because right now, see this? This is what it says. It masked. This is masked. So if I run inspect command, it would assume that I want an inspect command from the text mining package, right? This is not an error, but this is an informative message. And now I want to load the word cloud, and I want to load this snowball package, right? Now, this is what I'm doing here. Remember, I showed you that we have a reason, we have reason people like the airlines, reason people dislike the airlines, and I want to know why people like them. So, I'm gonna have to, there is more than one way to do it. I can take a subset of my sentiments data frames that I loaded. Ultimately, I can just run another query, right? I can just do that, if that's easier for me. And I'm gonna create a new data frame. I'm gonna do the, I'm getting an error. It's because I highlighted R. Instead, I don't want to highlight anything. I just want to place my cursor and run it. Excellent. So now it worked. But if that did not work, what would I do? If this command failed, I would have to check if I'm connected to the database, right? And to check if I'm connected to the database, I would probably try to run the command to list my tables in the database, something like that, right? If I'm not connected to the database, I would have to run a statement to connect to the database. Suppose that I am connected to the database, but my SQL still does not work. If it happens, you need to take your SQL statement, and you need to go back to here, and try running your query here and see if it works. If it does not, then you have to check the syntax, and you have to check the spelling of the column names. So now I'm going to go back here. Well, okay. Now this is how you do it. You read it into corpus, right? It's a little bit different. The syntax is slightly different from what you did last week, because last week when you loaded it from text files, right? Right now I'm taking it. This is a column in a data frame. So I'm creating a vector, and here I'm loading into the corpus. And now I'm going to preview. I believe it should work. Yes, inspect command works here, right? This is what I did. I previewed. And this is, I can preview the second one. I can preview it. I'm just randomly picking to preview it. Here, I'm just stripping my white spaces. That should work too. Then I'm going to remove my URL. That should work too. This one, I put to remove the non-ASCII characters because I have a bunch of smileys in my data. So you have to do that here. Here I'm removing the punctuation. So everything the same thing. I'm removing numbers. I'm converting to the lowercase. Here I'm writing a function to remove some special characters that didn't get picked up, right? Like slashes and so on. Now I'm going to remove the stop words, right? There we go. Here I need to tell you this, to admit something to you. This command did not work until I wrote the code to remove non-ASCII characters. I could not get this command to work until I removed non-ASCII characters. It's just like this. Okay. Now, here I'm gonna run the stemming, and I'm gonna strip my white spaces again. I'm doing the document term matrix, right? Sometimes I want to see the dimensions. So this showing me the number of terms and the number of tweets, right? And if you remember this, see this? It's also showing me here the dimensions. See this? It's huge, right? I'm right now looking at 56.9 megabytes. Whoa! I could not work with this type of file last assignment. Now, what I could also do is I can do the preview. View command is just gonna give me the preview. It's gonna open spreadsheet-like format. So here it's just showing me the terms, and I believe here it's gonna be the tweet number. And here it's just showing me how many times the term appears in the tweet. So this is kind of like sparse. Alright, so let's go back to the code. Okay, here it is. Now I'm going to do the find the frequent terms. I want to see which terms appear 50 or more times, right? Well, how did I come up with 50? Just a matter of playing around. And now I can find association. This is the same thing that you did for the last assignment, right? You can play with the word cloud. This is the same. Now here, that's fine. It's just showing me that some words did not get plotted. I can look into it further. I can adjust my screen size. I can just decide to illuminate something, right? But look at this. Let's take a look. What does it show? Great. Oh, looks like they have a customer service, right? And people say good, love. Here it's kind of showing me the airlines. Virgin America. Oh, see this? American Airlines, right? They have a great service probably. And oh, plane tickets. There is something about tickets. There is on time. Maybe it's on time, right? Good customer service. See this? So that gives me the possible reasons. And what does it mean today? Maybe it means that I can buy on the same day, something like that. So, I mean, probably your interpretation is going to be different from my interpretation. Here, iGraph package is already available, so you can use it. And there is a chapter. There is the if you look at the week 2 readings, there is one on R where you assigned chapter was chapter 10. But there is also chapter 11 in that book where it shows how to do the network plots. I would recommend you to read this. I would recommend, if you're interested, you can learn more about the iGraph package, things that I did not show you. But iGraph is one of the packages that's already pre-installed here, and you have to load this in memory before you can use it. It's already there. So that's a good news. We can use this, we can do the network of term visualization, right? And here, to do that, I'm going to use this as a term document matrix. Before that, you work with a document term matrix. This is a term matrix, right? So I'm running this, I'm removing sparse terms. Here, what I'm doing is, I'm going to see if the terms appear together, right? So let's look at this. Let's run this term matrix, and let's look at this. Let's preview this. And I showed it last demo, but I'm going to repeat this because this is available, right? This package is available. So here it is. I have every column is a tweet number. Here is a term, and it's telling me how many times my term appears in a tweet. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create another matrix where I don't care how many times it appears. I'm going to mark as 1 if the word appears, mark as 0 if the word does not. And this is what I'm doing in here. And now I'm going to create I will take this matrix, important, and I'm gonna multiply it by its transpose. And this is gonna give me a different matrix which gonna show me how many times the terms appear together. And I'm gonna use this to build adjacency graph. So basically, if you see a non-zero, right? Like for instance, grade and airline, if the number is non-zero, it means that there is an edge. This here is going to be a vertex, and this is a vertex in a graph. And if the number is a non-zero, it means there is an edge. It means these terms might appear together in the same fluid, right? See this? Some numbers are really high. On here, there is a zero. It means that Southwest and the JetBlue are not going to appear together, which makes sense because they're different airlines. It totally makes sense. But anyway, I'm just trying to give you an idea. So now I'm going to close this. And for your homework, you can play around with different layouts. I'm just showing you how to do it. Now this command, setSit, is going to make your result reproducible. So if I run the same command again, I'm going to get the same. The network is going to get the same, look the same, right? And I'm just telling you, play around with this, and you can zoom in. You just basically have to play with different values. You can change the vertex shape and so on, right? And even if you go to read the chapter I mentioned, it's going to show you how to identify the subgraphs within the graph. But before you go in there, you want to make sure that you have the basics done. You don't want to start from the hard stuff, right? So now let me go back to the part that is not. Yes, this is not in a walkthrough. This is what I'm doing. The sentiments has a field called tweets created. This is a date when somebody made a post. What I'll do right now, I'm creating another variable, and I'm going to extract the date part, right? Month, date, and year. I'm going to extract and store it into the variable called post. Okay? There we go. Okay. There was a question? No? Okay. So now, what I did here, I'm sorry, what was that? Let me look at this. 1 second, let me see. Let me see the chat because I cannot see it. Okay, what was that? Okay, if there is a column, it's called it's okay. What is this? If there is a command or set commands to create, bigrams, I'll have to look into that. Okay? I'll have to look into that. But let's look at this first because I was talking about this, and then we will, okay? There is more than one thing that you can do, but what I'm showing you is just a sample, the starting point. But it also depends what packages you have to install, right? Because you want to install as less as possible, and you want to get as much as possible done as you can, but install as less as possible. But let me get back to the questions. I want to finish this part because I'm on it right now. So what I'm doing here, I'm trying to calculate the number of posts per day, right? That's what I'm doing here. Now I want to find the day with the maximum number of posts, right? This is what I'm doing here too, right? And I think I'll give you a copy of this code. Here, what I'm trying to do is I'm going to create a plot here. I'm going to plot the number of posts per day, but I don't like how this plot looks like. I'm going to do the line, right? So here is my line, and I can tell when I had the most activity, right? When I had the most activity. But hold on, wait a minute. I want to see when I received more complaints about the airlines. So let's do this. Let's see. Okay, what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna get a little fancy. This is how you can do. You can do it more than one way. I can run a query, or I can just extract a subset here, right? Well, I chose to run a query. Let's delete this. So here, what I'm doing I'm running the query, and I'm gonna just select the date when the tweet was created, and I'm gonna just select the sentiment, right? Here it is. And what I want to do is I want to create a plot, but I want to have a separate line per sentiment. So here, what I did here, I have to extract the date because the date is going to be my x-axis, right? I have to extract this, and here I have to get the count because this is going to be the count, right? The y-axis is going to be the count, but this is a conditional selection. I'm selecting the records where the sentiment is positive, negative, neutral, right? So I'm going to have three variables here, run, 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 and now I'm going to plot. So when I do this, right, I plotted only, see, I did just only one, right? I think this one negative. This is just negative. So now I want to add to the same plot. So I use the lines command just to add another chart to the same plot. Right? There we go. So here is a time series analysis by sentiment. Alright, so now let's go back to questions because I wanted to finish this first. What I was trying to do is that whatever you do, you want to make sure that you have your package is installed already, because I know that sometimes there could be an issue. When I tell you to install something, I'm not gonna tell you to install what I did not try installing. So if it's something that is using any of these packages, you can do it. If it's something that's using anything here, you can do it, right? If it's a package that's not installed here, and if it's a package that not any of this, you have to check with me on Lineage if this is safe to do, okay? Because you can go way far beyond, and you can even, if you look at that page where the dataset comes from, somebody posted an R code to do geospatial analysis. Yeah, but I don't want you to look at that before you get the minimum done for this assignment. So going beyond, it does not mean that I'm just going to go in and jump into something hard. No, I mean, I was a student before, so first I would start from meeting the requirements for a B. That's how I would start. And then I would add to it. I would go in and add depth to my analysis. I'm going to read the help system, try to add something that was not shown to me in the walkthrough. I would just build up, but I'm just going to have something. I'm going to have the basis, right? So in case, if I lose the code, if something goes wrong, I have something to go back to, right? I have a safety, at least I have the work done for a bit. Then I can go jump in and start exploring, downloading packages and so on, because I'm going to have something I can turn in. I don't want to just go in and install and then have too many problems and not being able to finish the assignment. You see what I'm saying? Yeah? I guess, Yana, do you want to add anything to it? Because this is a sad story, right? Yelena or Lineage, do you want to add something to it? Do you still hear me? Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying that in the past, we would have students who would just go in and start trying something fancy. Just trying something out of the box right away. But at the time when they try to do that, they're trying to install packages. And then RStudio would not load. Because they tried to do something that was not in the walkthrough. And at the time when they tried to do it, they did not do the basic stuff. So we do the basic stuff first. So you have something working. You have a copy, right? You have a big copy of the work, perhaps. Then you start adding to it. So if you happen to do something that you won't be able to log in anymore, right? I had students who ruined this file, the portfolio, this file. If this file gets ruined, it's too bad, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
No,
So
that's a good point actually. Now
yeah.
we've seen that multiple times in the past, especially when are in the cloud. Yeah, you want to do the basics first, and just go through the walkthrough and with the packages that are listed,
Mm-hmm.
and then once you're done with the basic, in fact, and any of the assignments, and you go through the basics first, and once you've gone through that, then add on all the fancy stuff and all the other parts to it, and all the other building blocks. I agree.
Because I mean, how can you
Great
aim
point.
for an A? Yeah, I have to have a B first, right? I have to go
Absolutely.
in, yeah. I have to read and basically in a syllabus, yes. B defined as you just go in and you answer all the questions, and you then you get a B. But you want to add to it, but you cannot add to it until you did the minimum. That's the thing. So I saw this misconception here. To go beyond, you have to do what's required first, and then you add to it. You have to progress to it. You don't jump to it, you progress to it. I mean, that's from a student perspective, I can tell you that. You progress to it, and you'll get there. If you just take time to get there, you'll get there. But you have to start working from the beginning. You have to start working from it right now. I'm serious. So if you wait until Saturday, that's no go. It's not gonna work, right? While it's fresh in your memory, right? While it's fresh and you're gonna have a recording, you may have to watch it again. Trust me, you may have to watch it again. Yeah. Anything else to add to this? Oh, well, we had questions. Let me see. I'm gonna look at the questions chat. Yes, I believe. Okay. I'm trying to look at this. Okay. Okay, so somebody asked me to show the DSX. I did. So suppose that I have columns with comments but do not have a sentiment column. Well, okay. It's a good question. You do not have a sentiment column. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. In the data sets that you will have to choose for assignment 2, yes, you do have a sentiment column. You do. Yes. Uh, and it's because this is a metadata. I want you to play around with the metadata. Yeah. Or if you mention that you want to do different analysis, right? Where you kind of like predict the sentiment, then you've got a predicted value you can compare with an actual value. But first, you have to do the basics. Then you're gonna progress to it. We don't jump to hard stuff, we progress to it. Right? But you will have, maybe it's called different, but you're gonna have something like, it might not be positive, negative, neutral, it might be 1, 2, 3, but it's similar. So that question is resolved. Okay, well, for the diagram, that's the thing. You would have to use a help system. You would have to go to Google and you would have to put how do I do diagrams in R, and you're gonna see the help page. This is the way to do that. See, because I could do this, right? More likely I'm not gonna get anything because I don't know what to search for, right? More likely. See this? So what I'll have to do is I'll have to go to Google and I'll have to check because there are many text mining packages, right? There are many packages, but I want you to do what's installed first. And then you go and explore beyond, okay? I hope I answered that question because we want to start with this. Yeah. So it's like learning how to swim or anything like that. Learning how to drive. You're not gonna go on a highway first. You're gonna start slow. You have to take time, right? But you have to progress to it. So I wanted to make it clear, just because I was a student also, and Lunesh was a student also. He is one of the graduates. So, yeah. And anything else to add? Any other questions? What happens if there are no questions? Elena starts asking questions. Remember 2 types of packages, right? System and user. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Remember how I got to this? Yeah. So I guess I answered. Okay, I think I may have to write some code. Okay. Yes, you could write some code. That's excellent idea, but promise me, you're gonna promise me that before you do that, you're gonna do the basic stuff. And it's because we're all human, anything could happen. Yes, excellent. Anything could happen. You know, we all could have an emergency and so on. But it's just to be safe. We're gonna make a copy. You just save this backup copy. You have something to submit. It's not nothing. Yeah, just safety. Yes. Anyone else? Anyone else? Let's see. Linesh or Yelena, anybody wants to add something?
No, pretty good. Thank you.
Okay, so is everybody awake? If nobody asks questions, I start asking questions. So should I stop sharing and should we call it a night? Or... And oh, wait a minute. Let me see. I have to make sure that I went through everything in slides. So we did that. I went through the troubleshooting part. Yep. I went through this on new commands, right? How to see the tables. I went through this. Oh, this command just to check if the table exists. This will show me if the table exists in the database. Yeah. And this one is just showing me the error message that I get if I'm not connected to the database. And this is what happens when I mistype. When I try to run a query to pull data from the database in R, this is the error that I'm going to get if I have an error in a query. That's it. That's about it. So what I could do is I could give you this script. I could give you a copy of this script. No problem. Okay? Are we good? And so everybody's going to do well, right? So the next assignment, this one is just the quiz. You do that and you submit it. There is some multiple choice. And keep in mind, some multiple choice questions, if it says choose all that applies, then the question has multiple correct answers. If it says choose the best answer, then there is only one answer. Just clarification in advance. Okay? And there is something else that not to do. Do not take the question, copy, paste in Google. It's not gonna work. I did not take these questions from any database. Okay, let me see. The question is, look at the chat. When are you posting a copy of the script? This one, I'll post a copy of this script when I post the video. When we post the WebEx recording, we will post the slides and we will post this code. Yeah, but you already have part of this code. Part of this code is in the walkthrough, right? And yes, I need to tell you, if you already downloaded SQL code, about 10 minutes before this class, I updated the SQL code. 10 minutes before this walkthrough, I found a little typo and I uploaded the file. So you would need to download it again. Sorry. Okay? I was able to log in to R with connection. Oh, sorry. With this, I was able to log in to R with the connection information, but data science experience page wasn't working for me. I could not log in. Okay, so when you have a problem, you have to post the screenshot of what you did. Okay? You need to post the screenshots and what the problem is, what an error is. Okay? Because see how you were able to log into R. In order to log into R, you have to be in a data science experience. Well, if it was not working, if the page was not working, you see what I was doing. You see what I did, right? I exited, right? And I tried again. You just try again, try different browser. You don't, you could not log in. Well, the thing is, when you click on that link, it's gonna take you to the page, and you are logging in with your it's the same credential as your Bluemix credential. It's the same credential as your Bluemix credential. It's an Analyze tab. It's the same credential. See this? I go to Analyze and I go to Launch.sex. That's how I get here, and I click on Sign in. You might be asked to enter the Bluemix credentials. It's possible. Then you just enter your Bluemix credential, and we are done. So if you say you could not log in, you need to elaborate. You have to give me screenshots or where you logged in, where you did not. And if that does not solve it, then we have to do the screen share. Sometimes to set up the screen share, we use the Google Hangout application to do screen shares. All right? I hope I answered the question. I hope I did. Okay. Oh, and also very important, when you log into the data science, when you connect to data science to the cloud, right? When you connect to the database from R, very important, you have to put your credentials, not my credentials. You have to change this code. You have to put yours. It's not going to be mine. Oops. Here it is. I put mine. You have to put yours. Here. This is going to be your server and your password. Okay? I hope I answered it. Anything else? Let me stop sharing for a while because I have to look at if... Okay. Yeah, Helena? Helena?
I was in mute.
Sorry, yes, I was gonna say there's anything that I did not show, but I should have shown. Is there
Can you hear me now?
Yes, is there anything I missed?
No, I think everything is okay.
Okay.
I'm just going to stay after everyone leave with to share screen with one student. But this is not related with this. So I think we are good to finish this session. Was more extensive than actually planned. It was good, and I think everyone has to start working and get as much experience as possible during these 3 weeks with this technology.
Yeah, and the reason is we went over time is because the videos went down, so I wanted to make sure you have the information you need.
Well, all the information which was in this video is already recorded. As soon as the recording is ready, but the recording is not going to be ready until tomorrow. You understand why it's so extensive. It's not going to appear until tomorrow, okay?
Yeah, because it has to be, yes.
Yeah.
So when we post the recording, we're going to post the updated code and we're going to post the slides.